The alarm clock screamed at 4:30 a.m., but Maria Santos was already awake. She had been lying in the cramped studio apartment in Queens, staring at the water-stained ceiling, thinking about the electricity bill that was 3 weeks overdue. Her daughter, Elena, slept peacefully on the pull-out couch they shared, her 17-year-old face still carrying traces of childhood innocence despite everything they had been through. Maria moved silently through their tiny space, careful not to wake Elena. She pulled on her worn uniform, navy blue polyester that had seen better days, and tied her graying hair into a tight bun. By 5:15 a.m., she was on the subway heading to Manhattan, to the gleaming penthouse on Fifth Avenue where she had cleaned for the Ashford family for the past 12 years. The Ashfords lived in a different world. Richard Ashford ran a private equity firm, and his wife, Catherine, spent her days at charity galas and country club luncheons. Their daughter, Victoria, was Elena's age, but the similarities ended there. Victoria attended Thornbridge Academy, the most prestigious private school in New York City, where tuition cost more than Maria made in 2 years. Elena, meanwhile, had earned a full academic scholarship to the same school. When the acceptance letter arrived 8 months ago, Maria had cried tears of joy and terror. Joy because her brilliant daughter deserved this opportunity. Terror because she knew Elena would enter a world where she did not belong, at least not in the eyes of people like the Ashfords. Maria arrived at the penthouse at 6:45 a.m., using her key to enter through the service entrance. The apartment was silent except for the hum of expensive appliances. She began her routine, dusting the crystal chandelier in the foyer, polishing the marble countertops, organizing Catherine's walk-in closet that was larger than their entire apartment. At 7:30 a.m., Victoria emerged from her bedroom, barely glancing at Maria as she grabbed a green smoothie from the refrigerator. She was on her phone, laughing at something. "Oh my God. Mom, you have to see this girl at school. She wears the same 3 outfits on rotation. It's actually tragic." Maria's hands froze on the countertop. She knew instinctively that Victoria was talking about Elena. Catherine appeared in the kitchen, already dressed in cream-colored Chanel, her blonde hair perfectly styled. "Who, darling?" "Elena Santos. Maria's daughter. She's in my grade on some charity scholarship." The girl literally carries her lunch in a brown paper bag. Paper bag mother. In 2024, they both laughed, a tinkling sound that felt like glass shards in Maria's chest. Maria continued wiping the counter, invisible as always, her face carefully neutral even as her heart shattered. "Well, speaking of Elena," Victoria said, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "I was thinking we should invite her to your birthday party next month. It would be so nice to include her, Make her feel welcome." Catherine raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "That's very thoughtful of you, darling. Very inclusive." Maria knew better. She had worked for wealthy families long enough to recognize cruelty disguised as kindness. This was not an invitation. It was a trap. That evening, Maria returned to Queens exhausted and heartsick. Elena was at the small kitchen table, surrounded by textbooks, her face illuminated by her laptop screen. She looked up when Maria entered, her warm brown eyes lighting up. "Mom, how was work?" "Fine, Mija. Always fine." Elena studied her mother's face. "You look tired." "More than usual." Maria forced a smile and began preparing dinner, rice and beans stretched to last the week. As they ate, Elena talked about her day, about the chemistry exam she aced, about the college applications she was working on. She did not mention Victoria Ashford or anyone at Thornbridge. She never complained, never told her mother about the whispers in the hallways, the way other girls excluded her from study groups, the snide comments about her thrift store clothes. But Maria knew. Mothers always know. 2 weeks later, the invitation arrived. Thick cream cardstock with elegant gold lettering, delivered to their apartment by private courier. Victoria Ashford's 18th birthday celebration at the Pierre Hotel. Black tie optional. Elena held the invitation with trembling hands, her face a mixture of hope and dread. "Mom, I don't have anything to wear to something like this." Maria looked at her daughter's face, saw the war between her pride and her desire to fit in, to be normal, to be accepted. She thought about the money in the coffee can under the sink, savings scraped together over months for Elena's college textbooks. "We will find something," she said quietly. "You will go to this party, Mija, and you will hold your head high." What Elena did not know, what Maria had never told her, was that Maria Santos had not always been a maid. Before Elena was born, before everything fell apart, Maria had lived a very different life. A life she had buried so deep that sometimes she almost forgot it existed. But now, looking at her daughter's uncertain face, Maria felt something stir inside her. Something she had kept locked away for 17 years. Something dangerous and powerful and long overdue. The following Monday at Thornbridge Academy, Victoria Ashford gathered her inner circle in the student lounge. Madison Cooper, whose father owned half of Manhattan's real estate. Olivia Chin, daughter of a tech billionaire. And Harper Wellington, old money that went back to the Mayflower. "So the scholarship girl is actually coming to my party," Victoria announced, scrolling through her phone. "This is going to be absolutely epic. What are you planning?" Madison leaned forward, eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Nothing cruel. Just a little reality check. She needs to understand where she stands. My mother is having the party photographed for Town and Country magazine. Can you imagine Elena Santos in those pictures? In whatever bargain basement dress she manages to find." The girls erupted in laughter. Across the lounge, Elena sat alone at a table, headphones in, pretending not to notice. But her hands had stopped moving on her keyboard. She heard every word. That afternoon, Elena walked home instead of taking the subway, needing the 2 hours to clear her head and convince herself not to cry. When she finally arrived at the apartment, she found her mother sitting at the table with an expression Elena had never seen before. Determined, almost fierce. "Mija, sit down. We need to talk." Elena sat, confused by her mother's tone. "I know what Victoria is doing. I know why she invited you." Maria's voice was steady, cold in a way that frightened Elena slightly. "She wants to humiliate you in front of everyone. To remind you that you do not belong in her world." "Mom, I don't have to go. It's fine. I never fit in there anyway." "No." Maria's hand slammed on the table, making Elena jump. "You will go. You earned your place at that school. You are smarter than all of those girls combined. And you will walk into that party with your head high. But I have nothing to wear. I can't show up to the Pierre Hotel in a dress from Target." Maria stood and walked to the small closet. From the back, behind the winter coats, she pulled out a locked metal box Elena had never seen before. Her mother's hands shook slightly as she opened it. Inside were things that made no sense. A platinum credit card, legal documents with names Elena did not recognize, photographs of her mother, decades younger, standing next to. The door suddenly opened. Davidson looked up from his clipboard, clearly not expecting anyone else. A man in an expensive charcoal suit walked in, his silver hair perfectly styled, his presence commanding immediate attention. Marcus went pale. "Mr. Harrison." James Harrison was a legend in the hospitality industry. He owned 17 luxury hotels across the country, and the Grandview was his crown jewel. At 63, he had built an empire on the principle that how you treated your staff reflected how you treated your guests. He didn't visit often, but when he did, everyone felt it. Marcus practically tripped over himself trying to stand straighter. "Mr. Harrison, sir, I wasn't expecting you this morning. We're just handling a small theft situation." Harrison raised one hand, silencing him instantly. His sharp blue eyes scanned the room, taking in Maria's tear-stained face, Sophie's defiant posture, the security guards looking anywhere but at him. "A theft situation involving my employee and what appears to be a teenager." Marcus swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. My watch was stolen from the executive lounge, and this young woman had it in her possession. Her mother works here as a maid, and I believe they coordinated." "Where exactly did you leave this watch, Marcus?" "At the coffee station in the lounge. I took it off to wash my hands and forgot it there." Harrison turned to Sophie. "And where did you find it, young lady?" Sophie met his gaze directly. "In the women's bathroom in the lobby, sir." on the counter by the sinks. I picked it up because I didn't want it to get stolen, and I was looking for my mom to ask her what to do with it. Harrison nodded slowly, then looked at Davidson. Have you checked the security footage yet? Davidson shifted uncomfortably. We were just about to, sir. Do it now. I'll wait. The tension in the room was suffocating as Davidson pulled up the security system on his computer. Everyone crowded around the screen. The timestamp showed the previous evening, around 11 p.m. The footage from the lounge appeared first. Marcus was there, talking on his phone, agitated. He paced back and forth, then suddenly stripped off his watch and threw it. The angle made it hard to see exactly where it landed, but it clearly wasn't on the coffee station. It sailed through the air toward the back of the lounge, near the service corridor. Marcus's face drained of color. I don't remember doing that. I was upset about a call. I must have. Harrison held up his hand again. Show me the bathroom footage. The next video showed Sophie entering the lobby bathroom at 5:47 a.m. She walked to the sink, washed her hands, then noticed something on the counter. She picked up the watch, examined it carefully, then put it in her jacket pocket and left. The entire sequence took less than 2 minutes. Harrison turned to Marcus, his voice like ice. So your watch wasn't at the coffee station. You threw it in anger, and it somehow ended up in the bathroom. This young woman found it and tried to return it. And you accused them both of theft. If you're rooting for Maria and Sophie right now, take a moment and subscribe to the channel. This turning point is just the beginning of something incredible. Marcus opened his mouth to speak, but Harrison wasn't finished. The old man's jaw was set in a way that made everyone in the room nervous. In my 30 years of running hotels, I've learned that character reveals itself under pressure. You, Marcus, just revealed yours. You were so quick to accuse these women, so certain of their guilt, that you didn't even bother to check the facts first. Sir, I apologize. I was mistaken about the location, but I still think. You think what? That because they're not wealthy, they must be criminals? That because this woman cleans toilets for a living, she has no integrity? Maria felt something crack open inside her chest. For years, she had swallowed every insult, every dismissive look, every moment of being treated as invisible. She had told herself it didn't matter, that pride didn't pay bills. But hearing someone defend her, someone with power, made her realize how much those small cruelties had cost her. Harrison turned to Maria, his expression softening. How long have you worked here? 3 years, sir. And in those 3 years, has anyone ever complained about your honesty? No, sir. Never. Davidson cleared his throat. Maria has a spotless record, Mr. Harrison. She's one of our most reliable employees. Harrison nodded, then looked at Sophie. And you, young lady, what's your name? Sophie Rodriguez, sir. What are you doing awake at 5 in the morning, Sophie Rodriguez? Sophie glanced at her mother before answering. I'm a student at Columbia. I was studying all night at the library. I came to bring my mom something she forgot, and I saw the watch in the bathroom. I knew it was valuable, so I picked it up. Columbia? Harrison's eyebrows rose. What are you studying? Business administration and economics. I want to work in hospitality management someday. Something flickered across Harrison's face, a mix of respect and recognition. He turned back to Marcus, and his voice became steel. You're fired, effective immediately. Clear out your office by noon. Marcus went white. Mr. Harrison, please, I've worked here for 8 years. This is just a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. You abused your authority, you humiliated innocent people, and you showed the exact opposite of what this company stands for. Security will escort you out. The guards moved forward. Marcus looked around desperately, as if someone might save him, but everyone avoided his eyes. As he was led from the room, he shot Maria and Sophie a look of pure hatred. Harrison waited until the door closed, then sat down heavily. He suddenly looked every one of his 63 years. He gestured for Maria and Sophie to sit as well. I need to apologize to both of you. What happened here today should never have happened. You deserved better. Maria's voice was barely a whisper. Thank you, sir. But Harrison wasn't done talking yet. Harrison leaned back in his chair, studying Sophie with an intensity that made her shift uncomfortably. Finally, he spoke. Columbia is expensive. Even with scholarships, the costs are crushing. How are you managing? Sophie glanced at her mother, unsure how much to reveal. Maria answered instead, her voice quiet but steady. I work 3 jobs, sir. We make it work. 3 jobs. Harrison shook his head slowly. And you still found time to raise a daughter who picks up a valuable watch and tries to return it instead of pocketing it. That says everything about your character, Mrs. Rodriguez. Maria felt tears threatening again, but this time they weren't from humiliation. They were from relief, from exhaustion, from years of being unseen finally ending in this one moment of recognition. Victoria's carefully constructed world crumbled in real time. Her face cycled through shock, humiliation, and something that almost looked like recognition of her own cruelty. Madison and Harper had backed away, suddenly very interested in the floral arrangements. Olivia stared at her phone, pretending to be somewhere else entirely. Catherine Ashford finally found her voice, though it came out strangled. Maria, I had no idea. If I had known who you were, I never would have. We would have treated you with the respect you deserved. Elena's laugh was soft but cut like a blade. That's exactly the problem, Mrs. Ashford. My mother deserved respect regardless of who she was. Every person who works for you deserves respect. But you only understand worth when it comes with a bank statement. Richard Ashford appeared, having been pulled from a conversation with other CEOs. His face went pale as he recognized Roberto Santos, a man whose firm had blocked one of his acquisitions the previous year. Santos, I didn't realize you were connected to the Ashfords. We're not, Roberto said coldly. We're simply here because my niece received an invitation. Though I suspect the motivation behind that invitation was less than genuine. Victoria finally found her voice, and to everyone's surprise, it cracked with genuine emotion. Elena, I'm sorry. I was horrible to you. I was cruel and petty, and I made your life miserable because I was jealous. The admission stunned the room into silence again. You have everything, Victoria continued, tears now streaming down her carefully made-up face. You're smarter than me. You work harder. You actually earned your place at Thornbridge while I just bought mine with my parents' money. And instead of admiring you, I tried to destroy you. I'm so sorry. Elena stood very still, processing the apology. Maria placed a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder. What you do with that apology is your choice, Mija. Elena looked at Victoria for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was neither cruel nor forgiving, simply honest. I accept your apology, Victoria, but understanding why you hurt me doesn't erase that you did. Maybe someday we can be friends. But right now, I just want to enjoy this party. She turned away, joining her uncle and mother, leaving Victoria standing alone in her beautiful dress, surrounded by hundreds of guests, more isolated than Elena had ever been. 3 years later, Elena Santos graduated summa cum laude from Harvard with a degree in international relations and economics. She stood on the stage in Harvard Yard, her crimson gown billowing in the June breeze, and looked out at the crowd where her mother and uncle sat beaming with pride. Maria had transformed their lives, but more importantly, she had transformed herself. She now ran a nonprofit foundation dedicated to supporting immigrant women and children escaping dangerous situations, helping them build new lives without having to sacrifice their dignity or hide their past. The foundation employed over 50 people and had helped hundreds of families. The Queen's apartment was a distant memory, but Maria kept one photograph from those years on her desk in their Central Park penthouse. Her and Elena at the tiny kitchen table, surrounded by textbooks, both of them exhausted but smiling, a reminder of where they had been and how far they had come. After the graduation ceremony, Elena found an unexpected face in the crowd. Victoria Ashford stood awkwardly near the edge of the reception, holding a small wrapped gift. I wasn't sure if I should come, Victoria said quietly, but I wanted to congratulate you, and to show you something. She pulled out her phone and showed Elena a photograph. Victoria in casual clothes, no designer labels visible, surrounded by children in a classroom. She was volunteering at an after-school program in the Bronx, teaching art to kids from low-income families. I've been doing this for 2 years now, Victoria explained. After that night at my party, I realized I had never actually worked for anything in my life, never contributed anything meaningful. I'm attending NYU now, studying social work. My parents weren't thrilled, but for the first time in my life, I'm doing something that matters. Elena looked at the girl who had once made her life miserable and saw someone genuinely changed. Not performing contrition, but actually transformed by the consequences of her actions. I'm proud of you, Victoria. That takes real courage. They hugged, briefly but genuinely. Not quite friends, but no longer enemies. Two young women who had taught each other profound lessons about worth, dignity, and the difference between status and substance. That evening, Maria hosted a celebration dinner at their home. Roberto flew in with his family from California. Former clients Maria had cleaned for, people who had actually treated her with kindness during those difficult years, joined them. And Elena's Harvard friends, a diverse group who loved her for exactly who she was. As Maria looked around the table, watching her daughter laugh freely, she felt something she had not felt in 17 years. Complete peace. She had protected Elena from darkness, raised her to be strong and kind, and now watched her step into a future unlimited by fear or shame. The girl who once carried lunch in a paper bag now carried herself with unshakable confidence. And the woman who had scrubbed floors while her heart broke now stood tall, having proven that true dignity cannot be stripped away by circumstance. Some stories end with revenge. This one ended with redemption.